24 years ago, a significant event happened. Yes, the PlayStation 2 was released in Japan and it was going to be one of the most successful consoles of all time. A console so good, so relevant, so successful that everyone's been talking about it for the past 24 years and counting. And trust me, the PlayStation 2 is so good. As a child back in the day, it really gave me a sense of just awe and amazingness into the world of gaming. I'd never seen anything like it before, going from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2. And actually, this unit that I have right here is my PlayStation 2 from 22 years ago. That's right, I got this baby 22 years ago in 2002 when I was just 9 years old as a birthday present. And let me tell you, it's beaten up, it's old, it's dirty, it's got a stain there somewhere, but this old unit still works and it has provided me with some of the best times of my life. So, let's talk about it. Hello folks, welcome back. And yes, in Japan, the PlayStation 2 is 24 years old. How on earth is it so old? That makes me feel old. I mean, as I've told you before, I'm 31 in July. I'm 30 at the moment. And I got this unit 2 years into its life in 2002 when I was just 9. And I'm now 30. I mean, okay, enough about all that. That's not what I'm here to talk about. I want to talk about my experiences with the PlayStation 2, both from when I first got it, well into its life cycle, and after its life cycle, because even if you don't have a PS2 right now, I urge you to get one. It's so freaking good. What's wrong with you? Sorry. Breathe. Sorry, I do get a little bit high rate when I talk about the PlayStation 2 because it's so freaking good. Sorry. I won't do that again, I promise. Let's go back to 2002 when I first got one. So, at the time, I had a PlayStation, an original PlayStation, and I was collecting demo discs and all sorts, and I was really getting into the PlayStation ecosystem. However, I saw an advert in May of 2002 showing off a game called Stuntman, and that blew my mind. My dad saw that advert with me, and when he saw the console, I think he knew what I wanted. Not to mention I was kind of crying out for a new console because our PlayStation, it was great, but the disc tray wasn't exactly in pristine condition. And rather than try and fix it, my dad thought buy another console. So it was just lucky that rather than buy the same console, he bought the PlayStation 2. When I first got the PlayStation 2, my first concern was about the old games. Originally, I wanted to keep the PlayStation because I didn't want the old games to not be played anymore. I was still playing Gran Turismo 2, I was still playing V-Rally and all the other demo disc games that I had at the time. When I put in a PS1 game for the first time and realised it worked, I got rid of the PlayStation in 7 seconds. I was like, yep, go away, I don't want it anymore. We ended up giving it to my dad's friend, so I don't know what's happened to it since then. I'm sure it's long gone now, but hopefully he enjoyed it. Now, let's go back to the PS2 properly. When I first got the system, it came bundled with a demo disc, and that demo disc gave me a gateway into just what I was dealing with. And bearing in mind, I was using composite cables at the time, using a CRT, so I didn't know any better, but regardless. I've popped in that demo disc, I heard that sweet music, and then just that futuristic demo logo and just the whole layout of the menu is just incredible. I was so taken aback. Scrolling through it all seemed seamless, and the first game I played, World Rally Championship. Yep, you can see it on screen now, but this game, and bearing in mind I was a fan of Colin McRae Rally at this time as well, this game really took driving to new heights for me. This was the game that showed me exactly what I was in store for. The environments looked real for the time, the drivers looked realistic, driving the car was just insane, the sound, the graphics, just the whole feeling of racing that car the way I did the very first time. I was just, wow. I couldn't believe how much the graphics advanced from PS1 to PS2. And then the story continues. I played all sorts of games. I played Smackdown, was it Bring the Pain or something like that? I played Gran Turismo 3, oh that really blew me away. Tekken 4, oh Jesus, and it goes on and on and on. But anyway, that was the demo disc. When it came to full games, apart from WRC, around this time I was getting into Dragon Ball Z with my brother, and we really wanted a Dragon Ball Z fighting game. Now, the first one we tried was Ultimate Battle 22, which was, well, rubbish. So we then bought, we bought Budokai not long after we got the PS2, and let me tell you, that game was, for the time, incredible. Playing as Goku, Vegeta, going for the story mode, seeing what we were seeing on the television at the time, and it looking so good, we just couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe we were basically playing the show. Okay, it was the PAL version, so unfortunately the voices were in Japanese, but the visuals, the gameplay, back then, it felt like we were playing the show. So when we were waiting for new episodes of the show, we played Budokai. It was great. My dad bought me Stuntman. That's a game that still sticks with me to this day. I've bought 5 copies of that game in my lifetime because I loved it that much. I used to play it so much. Funny enough, that was the first game I played where I learned the handbrake turn. Before then, I didn't know what a handbrake was when driving a car, but literally in the first mission of Stuntman, you have to do a handbrake turn, and I didn't know how to do it. So what did I do? I went to the manual, the instruction manual. I checked what a handbrake turn was. I found the button for it, pressed it, and I would go on to finish the game about 2 months after I learnt the handbrake turn. I know, the things you learn when you least expect it. And that was the game that gave me so much memories, because I recall playing that game and its missions over and over and over and over again, because it was just so difficult to play. But I did it. I was 10, but I did it. It was a lot of fun though. I mean, playing it even now, even though it's still a bit difficult, the physics, the handling, the characteristics of Reflections games back then, just, phew. I miss Reflections, by the way, just pointing out there. What else did I play back then? I played a game called Cell Damage Overdrive. We just liked the box. We literally looked at the box, saw the visuals, and my dad was looking for a game that me and my brother could play split screen, because we both used to love playing together. And that game was a lot of fun. We've even got the HD version now, so I'm glad that the game's still getting a lot of care and attention, even though the Overdrive version that I have was released in PAL territories only. You see? Those of you out there who are saying PAL is rubbish, play Cell Drive. Yeah, I got you there, didn't I? You could play the HD version, so it doesn't matter. But point is, that version of Cell Damage Overdrive was on PS2 in PAL territories only. So yeah, take that, NTSC people. See, we get good things too. Other games I used to love playing was Need for Speed Underground, Underground 2, Most Wanted, God of War later on, Resident Evil 4 later on. Most of my library though was driving games. I remember when I got Gran Turismo 4, actually that was it. When I got Gran Turismo 4 for the first time, cheese on toast. That game blew my sense of reality. It was just so good looking, and oh my word, I could go on about Gran Turismo in general for days. Maybe that's a video for another day. But Gran Turismo 4, and bearing in mind I was a fan of Top Gear at this point as well, so whenever Clarkson, Hammond and May spoke about particular cars and they appeared in Gran Turismo, I'd use that, try and see if I could drive it the way that they could drive it, along with the stick. Oh my god, just the memories and just how good it looked. And bearing in mind I was still using composite video at this time. I didn't go into SCART until a couple of years later, but my word, just, I told you, this is why it's so difficult to talk about PlayStation 2 and my experiences. I've got so many. You know, I remember renting games from friends back at school. I used to borrow games to try out, like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and King Kong, the official game of the movie, or The Incredible Hulk Ultimate Destruction. Fantastic games, by the way. I also remember trying out Most Wanted before my dad bought it for me. Honestly, that game, even after nearly 20 years, still is incredible. I love Most Wanted. It's so good. It's so good. It really is. And then fighting games, you know, Soul Calibur 2, in fact, sorry, Soul Calibur 3, Tekken 4, Tekken 5, a whole host of SmackDown versus Raw games I used to play. I've just got so many memories. Budokai 3, one of the greatest games from Dragon Ball Z ever. When me and my brother played that, we used to play so intently, like this, when we did the beam struggle. Our hands would be burned here, doing this with the analog, because that was the quickest way to get the beam to go in your favour. And then we transformed into Super Saiyan 4, being Goku Vegeta. I could go on and on and on about this, honestly, folks. Just insane. The memories, the absolute memories I had. while the memories were great, what about afterward? What about when the PS2 was no longer supported by Sony? What about that? Funny enough, I actually did put the PS2 down for quite some time, and I was into my PlayStation 3, my PC, and the PS2 was just, well, gathering dust. So then what changed? So at this point, I had a HD TV, and it did still have the analog connection, and I realized, hold on, that looks terrible. What's wrong with the graphics? Didn't realize until maybe a few months later that you could get RGB SCART or component, which is what I was using on PlayStation 3 at the time. So I put that cable in, and the games look so much better. And then I realized, oh, this is what I've been missing out on. I also realized that the PS2 had 40p support in certain titles using component or RGB SCART, and I wanted to rediscover my library with the new graphics that I just realized using component and RGB SCART. And then I realized that the games were still fun, they were still interesting, a lot of the memories were just there, and I don't know, I just got back into it. I just started buying games that I didn't play before, games that I used to love playing as a kid. And then obviously I was watching YouTube at this point, so I got to see all these games that I'd never heard of before or played. It's how I got into Silent Hill 3. I got into the Japanese market as well. Although I don't have a physical copy of any Japanese PS2 games. Although I've seen quite a few, and I'd love to get my PS2 modded just so I could buy them and play them. That would be quite interesting. You know, I really love my Japanese games, so. And of course then emulation came along as well, and I just started playing about with emulation. These days, emulation on PS2, thanks to the DuckStation team taking part, has come such a long way. And of course, most importantly, the PS2 has so many games, over 4,000 games, I couldn't even begin to fathom what that looks like if you part them all up. That's just my brief look at the memories that I had with this unit, because there's just so many. If you want to know any specific memories, maybe I can make a video about it and just talk about each specific moment of my life in time where I played certain games, say in my early phase, later phase, and then now, and then talk about what mods you could do to your PlayStation 2 to maximize its potential in the modern era. But for most of you, the simple question is, should you buy a PlayStation 2 today? Of course you should. It does not matter if you buy the fat model that I have here or the slim model, which I also have as well. The PlayStation 2 will give you so many reasons to play its games. They're just simple compared to what we have today for the most part. They're still a lot of fun, they still look good. We have the technology and ability to make them look great on either a CRT or a HD or 4K or even an 8K display, thanks to all the upscales that are out there and released. You can buy a S-Video component or composite upscaler for about £50, and it will look quite good on most modern displays. Or again, if you want to go with CRTs, there's so many out there that I've lost count. Just buy a typical £30-50 one and you'll be satisfied if you want to go down that route. Not to mention as well with PS2, if you want to emulate it rather than use real hardware, PCSX2 is your best friend, and it pretty much works on most devices nowadays, and the system requirements for that particular emulator is so low now. As I said before, you can play it on a Steam Deck and it will look fantastic. It'll run fantastic, and most of the games will play very well. No, emulation is not going to be absolutely perfect, but it's still so good now that I can easily recommend it, as opposed to when I first dabbled with it 10 years ago. Anyway, that's a little ramble on my PS2 experiences, along with just some little tidbits here and there. Most importantly, folks, I want to hear from you. What do you think of the PlayStation 2? Did you have one growing up? Have you got one now? What do you think of it today? And most importantly, do you still play it in some way? Let me know, and well, I will see you next time.